During the time that Assassin's Creed Unity was being finalized and marketed, whispers of a second game using the same rendition of the engine and art style already started surfacing on the internet. An Assassin's Creed game set in the dark and perilous Industrial Revolution. Screenshots of a hooded assassin wearing a stunning red and black outfit started going viral, showing images of both gameplay and concept art of a dark and gritty London, shrouded in smoke and darkened by the city's own corruption. At the time, excitement was building, and I was among the people who were getting pretty excited. The screenshots made me feel like we were about to get a Victorian Assassin's Creed game in which we basically played as a badass Batman-like character in the Assassin's Creed universe, which to me is the perfect marriage, complete with a menacing outfit, grappling hook, and a dark and depressing atmosphere. It was a game that, to this day, I wish we would have gotten. Instead, the direction of the game changed massively when AC Unity was badly received, and by the time of the release of Assassin's Creed Victory, now called Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the character we saw in the screenshots was relegated to a cameo at the start of the game, and we took control instead of the Fry twins, Jacob and Evie. Now, there are a million things I can say about what I would have rather gotten instead of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, mainly because I personally believe that Assassin's Creed works better when it is darker and more serious, and I think that a lot of the humorous tone and quirkiness and lack of seriousness that you saw in Assassin's Creed Syndicate didn't really fit Assassin's Creed as a franchise, and it didn't do the service that it needed to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Not only because I think it doesn't work in general, but because history tends to be extremely dark and depressing, and the Industrial Revolution is one of the most dark and depressing times in history. So to have adopted a game style and tone that keeps making jokes and treating it like a comedy instead of something darker and more gritty feels disappointing, especially when you see the screenshots and the art that was circulating around the internet before the marketing for Assassin's Creed Syndicate started. And this is where I want to start this discussion with the art, because then later in the video I'm going to show you something that makes this a dream that is so much closer than most people think, and yet still so far away. So looking at the art, some of my favorite images are the ones of this character that we were supposed to play as, this kind of dark, gritty character that then just became a guy called George Westhouse, which just turned out to be the mentor at the beginning of the game. We were supposed to originally play as him and no one else. It wasn't supposed to be a dual protagonist story, and you can see from his outfit and the tone of the game that this was supposed to be a single character story focused much more on the dark aspects of the Industrial Revolution, of the dark aspects of London during this time, and it was supposed to be a much more grounded game following the tone promise of Assassin's Creed Unity. Obviously, when AC Unity was kind of lambasted by critics for different reasons, but again, there's a lot of, cause attribution mistakes when it comes to Ubisoft. They completely changed the tone, and they went with these two happier, more jovial Assassin's Creed protagonists. My favorite images are the one of George, this supposed to be protagonist, fighting on top of a carriage, trying to fight some sort of Templar. It just seemed like the gameplay was going to be extremely dynamic, and these are things that you can do in the game, but because of the color palette choice, the outfit changes, and the overall music choice, when you do this in-game, it feels much more cartoonish than just looking at these screenshots. And moving on to him running through the train station or him looking over the city of London, you can just see how the tone promise that I spoke about before, the kind of pitch that you're telling the audience this game is going to be like, how it's going to feel and how it's going to treat itself, was just much darker and gritty than it ended up being. And what I wanted to speak about was not these screenshots that most of you have probably seen, but rather a mod that a person made halfway through and then ended up giving up on because the workload was insane, that gave us a closer look at what this game could have been. And I wanted to share it with you today in case you haven't seen it, and share some of my favorite things about this mod that I really think could have made this game 100% better. So this game, first of all, remarkably changed it so that there's only one protagonist. And you're probably thinking, how did this modder do this? Well, he changed Jacob's model for George Westhouse's model. So you have the outfit that you saw that's much cooler than any of the outfits you see in the game. He used his face model, and then Evie, the character that you can change with at any point in the gameplay, he switched for a male version of George Westhouse using a traditional Victorian outfit. So not only did this modder change it so that you only have one protagonist, which in my opinion works better, but then he also made it so that you had the assassin outfit that you can wear during missions, and you have a civilian outfit you can wear when you want to blend in with the crowd and be much more immersed. And I think this is a much better way of A, telling the story through just the perspective of one protagonist, but also handling this whole social blending stealth thing that they wanted to do. Because for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, for some reason, and Quebec always do this, they just have a problem with hoods for some reason, because in their modern games, hoods don't appear in cutscenes, and in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you couldn't wear a hood standing up. If you stand up in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you have to wear a top hat if you're playing as Jacob, and Evie just takes her hood off, which makes absolutely no sense, and I don't like that at all, because yes, it's supposed to be more immersive, but then you're doing normal parkour wearing a top hat, doing flips and doing zip lines, and that's not particularly immersive. So the thing that this game does is allow you to change basically outfits, kind of like in Assassin's Creed Liberation. You can wear your assassin outfit, and then you can very easily switch quote-unquote characters to still be George Westhouse, but wear a traditional London outfit. This was a clear improvement over Assassin's Creed Syndicate in my opinion. It works much better because you can walk around wearing a hood if you want to, and if you want to roleplay as a civilian and blend in with the crowd, or in specific missions where you're going to be seen in public, you can just wear the other outfit. It also replaced a lot of characters with much more dark and sinister protagonists, like replacing Henry Green with this like vampire looking guy. And all the cutscenes were edited so that the dialogue somewhat worked with new lines and better pacing that removed a lot of the jokes and a lot of the happy-go-lucky tone that Assassin's Creed Syndicate has that a lot of people don't like. There were also things that he added to the project that just made the game so much better. One of the things that he changed was the soundtrack. This is something that I've spoken about before, but I've always thought that the AC Syndicate soundtrack is one of the biggest issues with the tone failure of Assassin's Creed Syndicate. The soundtrack is good, it's well composed, don't get me wrong, the music is high quality as it always is in Assassin's Creed, but the tone just kind of ruins the weight of moment-to-moment gameplay, especially when you're doing something like liberating children from factories, or trying to blow up a bank, or setting something on fire, trying to save people who are dying, or just exploring London in one of its darkest periods in its own history. You have these kind of quirky violins and string music playing in the background that completely seem to not be able to read the room of the kind of gameplay that you're doing. And this is one of the things that the modder solved. He changed the soundtrack to make it much more dark and gritty, and I invite you to listen to it. I don't know if the editor can play some here, but it's beautiful music that I think matches the gameplay much more. Not only does it do this, but it also makes the weather much darker. It kind of creates this mod that you can also get separately. It's a weather mod that you can put in Assassin's Creed Syndicate that makes everything much more gloomy. So the sky is always covered in smog, there's always fog and darkness, sometimes rain, and the overall atmosphere and color of the game changes completely. And these seem like small changes compared to the big change of completely swapping out a character, removing Evie, removing Jacob, and putting in George Westhouse, but they are things that help so much with the core issues of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because if you look at AC Syndicate from an eagle-eye view, there are many things that I love about this game. My favorite thing about this game by far is the mission design. The mission design is probably the best that we've had in Assassin's Creed. The black box missions, the openness and stealth gameplay, the amount of agency that you have and how you get to and kill a target has never been matched, and I think it's much better than Assassin's Creed Unity. I also think that the AI manipulation is amazing, the way you can interact with NPCs, the way that you have more non-lethal options, the mission variety, the world building, the way that London has been constructed. There are things that in AC Syndicate that are honestly masterpieces and are just shrouded by this misfiring of tone and attitude and approach to Assassin's Creed that Ubisoft Quebec tends to have, which is not taking the franchise seriously. And those are the small changes that I think you need to make to give us that beautiful dream of Assassin's Creed Victory, that kind of Victorian era Batman assassin type character. And changing things like the weather and the soundtrack to dull, more in line with the gameplay that you're doing, alongside the bigger changes like changing a character, is exactly what you need. And this was a beautiful, beautiful forgotten dream that this modder almost brought to us. And honestly, if you don't mind playing things that feel a little bit incomplete, I invite you to download this mod, because even though it's incomplete, you can play it and you can test it. It's already got 2,000 downloads, but if you don't know about it, I invite you to download this mod and play it and let me know what you think. I truly think that this is the closest we would ever get to that Assassin's Creed that could have been if Assassin's Creed Unity had been successful. I think that if Assassin's Creed Unity had been successful and it hadn't failed, and Ubisoft Quebec had stuck to the tone that it was originally trying to do with Assassin's Creed Victory, this is the game that we would have gotten. And I honestly think it's a beautiful, beautiful game and a complete upgrade from what Assassin's Creed Syndicate turned out to be. And again, well done to this modder for bringing this dream close to reality. He changed voice lines, he changed music, he changed weather, he changed character appearances, character models, outfits, and it's honestly fantastic. So I really do believe that Assassin's Creed Victory could have been an amazing masterpiece of a game. I think that there are so many things that this modder made, and I think that there's so many changes we could have made to Assassin's Creed Syndicate that would have made it better. One of the things that I already mentioned is streamlining one character, and even though we would lose people like Evie, and I do prefer Evie to Jacob, I think George Westhouse would have been a more interesting character than the two. I think you would have streamlined the gameplay to make it more stealth focused. I think the missions could have been much more grounded. There are a few like Jacob Fry taking down the entire English economy that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And again, this is the problem that Ubisoft has had for many, many years, and this is no exception. It's just a game that isn't talked talked about much because there's more games we can talk about when we discuss the idea of missed opportunities, but I do think Assassin's Creed Syndicate was a missed opportunity or unrealized potential. As always with Ubisoft, you have 70% of the ideas there. You have the consistent stealth gameplay, you have the functional AI, you have the amazing world building, you have the great sound design, you have the great character models. You're just missing slightly better parkour because AC Syndicate was a huge downgrade from Assassin's Creed Unity, and then you have this failure in tone that I think creates a lot of misfiring between the fans and the creators. So let me know what you think of Assassin's Creed Victory. Let me know if you have any gameplay changes that you would make beyond the ones that I've mentioned, and if you do have the chance to check out this mod, let me know what you think of it, and if you agree that this is a better version than Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I like talking about a lot of hypothetical games here and a lot of would-be Assassin's Creed games, so one of them is a modern-day Assassin's Creed game. So if you want to watch me talk about that, you can watch this video now.